Welcome to the Big Time Thinking Podcast. This content is brought to you by taking thousands of arrows right in the back and doing something about it. With winking at girls in the dark.
Get them to sign on the line which is dotted.
And get ready to scale your sales, your dealership, your business, your life, your family, and your friends with Big Time Thinking.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Without further ado, here is the founder and CEO of Big Time Advertising, Terry McCauley.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Buckle up. Reality starts right fucking now.
Oh yeah, it is Monday and it's podcast time. My favorite day of the week. Just really getting pumped about these podcasts more and more. And can't wait to get this week's going. Don't know where you live and where you listen to these podcasts, but how fucking hot has it been lately? It's ridiculous. We're in the heat of summer. Time to grind, go hard at it, family time. But man, plow through this heat and keep working hard and make this week a kick-ass week. Don't let it hold you back. Listen, today's podcast, actually, I threw a 4th of July party at my house, which I've always loved the 4th of July and love fireworks. In fact, this year I kind of went up above and beyond on my fireworks show this year. Spent a little money on this thing called a Firefly. And if you haven't heard of them, it's Bluetooth activated. So this thing is so legit. You can hook up to 15 fireworks. So I had tons of 500 gram cakes, probably $2,000 worth of fireworks we set off. But these things hook up to 15 at a time, and then it connects remotely with your iPhone or a tablet. Dude, and you just sit in your lawn chair and go beep and watch fireworks go off. So it was a lot of fun. Got the neighborhood fired up a little bit. They came down, we're eating. We had smoked all day long, did some pork belly burnt ends, which were ridiculous off the hook. And my wife and I actually bought this house this past a year ago, August, and moved in November. So it's our first time meeting a lot of neighbors that had come down. And really, believe it or not, this kind of spawned this podcast today because we met a lot of people for the first time. One, they came in our house. Some of the people had heard about us, and it got me thinking to the value and importance of a first impression in business and in life. And we all know what a first impression is, or we all think what a first impression is. And I started giving it some real thought, and that's what we're going to hit on today is first impressions. So yeah, first impressions, they just got me thinking, giving it a lot of thought, and they're so important to being successful in your job, your work, business, especially if you're in sales, but even your family, your friends, how you network with people in general. And I tell you, it's the first step in the road to the sale that I've touched on, building rapport. This actually starts before building rapport, and it's actually the very first step in the road to the sale that I typically adhere to. But first impressions are tough to talk about because they're extremely personable and personal. And if you're not willing to really look in the mirror, dig down deep, and talk about this topic, you'll never master it. But it's critical. It's critical to being successful. So what do I mean? The first thing I want to ask people while you're listening is give yourself some thought right now and think to yourself, when does a first impression happen or take place? Now think about that. I always ask my sales guys when I'm training, that's the first thing I ask them is, when do you think a first impression happens? Okay? And typically, I'm quiet and hands go up and people say, when you meet somebody right at the very beginning. And I'll say, okay, yep, that is definitely a possibility of when a first impression happens. Any other thoughts and ideas, you know? And they typically always hover around this, well, when you first have eye contact from a distance, okay, and they start evolving. And I've given this so much thought over the years, but a first impression, my answer is we really don't know when they happen. But we know they happen, and we know they exist. So what do I mean? First impressions, so if you work for a company, I happen to own and run Big Time Advertising and Marketing. It's possible someone has heard about my ad agency before I ever talked to them, right, through referral. So they already have a first impression of my ad agency. Maybe they see an ad on Facebook about your business. Maybe they see one on television, on radio. Wouldn't they already have a first impression about your business? I'll never forget when I was living in Decatur, Illinois, and I'd never heard of the hardware store Menards when they were starting to grow and work their way south. Menards. I'll never forget those TV commercials. That old guy coming on going, "Save big money at Menards," and I had a first impression of the place. Like, why on earth would I ever go to that place? But it stuck in my head. So eventually I went, and it ended up being one of my favorite hardware stores. That was a first impression. I challenge sales guys. If you happen to wear a logo on your shirt, or you have one on your vehicle, and you're a new small business owner, and you've put magnets or graphics on your vehicle, right? A first impression can happen when you drive. If you run a red light, if you flip someone the bird because they pissed you off at a light, if you're at a grocery store wearing the logo on your shirt, all right, and you're rude to a cashier, or you don't return your shopping cart to the cart return, that could be someone's first impression of you. If they catch, I've seen, and they recognize that guy. It can happen anywhere, but they definitely happen, okay? And I think we all relate to the first time we meet someone, but it's really not, we're not giving it the full justice it deserves, because first impressions happen, and they're absolutely critical. So then I always challenge everyone into thinking, how critical are first impressions? Like, are they really that big a deal? I would argue they're almost everything. They set the table for how things evolve from there, okay? So here's the analogy I like to use and challenge people with. Let's imagine for a second, and it's a little twisted, I get it, but it does a great job in your head. And put your thinking cap on and put yourself in this situation, this scenario. You come home from work or the grocery store, whatever it is you just did, you run an errand, and there's 7 squad cars waiting for you. You get out and you're immediately under arrest for murder. They tell you you're arrested for murder. You're like, what are you talking about? Well, for the analogy, we got a phone call. Someone inside your house is deceased and you're under arrest for suspicion of murder. Okay, that's a big deal, right? You're like, okay, I got an issue here, right? And let's assume for a minute you get to the jail, you're processed, and you're in front of a judge rather quickly for an arraignment, okay? And you've had no time for, you don't have the money or the funds to hire a top-notch attorney, so they say, no problem for this, we will appoint you a court-ordered attorney, okay? So you're sitting there, scared to death, scared for your life, at your table, waiting for your attorney to meet your attorney. And while you're sitting there, the doors to the chambers open, the doors to the courtroom open real loud, and in walk 3 guys and 1 gal, a team of 4. The guys are dressed in just these dark pinstripe suits that just look pressed to high heaven. Their shirts, they have the collar down, pressed. They got cufflinks on. You catch one of them wearing a Rolex watch. The gal's got her hair up in a professional bun, and she's wearing a suit. And they just walk in. They don't even smile. They're carrying briefcases, and they sit down. And the minute they sit down, they just go. I mean, they got a look on them like this. They mean business. You hear them even open their briefcase, and that noise that makes echoes in the chambers. Are you nervous yet? Yeah, you're nervous. They look like pretty good prosecuting attorneys. Okay? Then they're there to prosecute you. Then you sit there and you wait a little longer, and in walks your attorney. He was supposed to be there at 9 a.m. and he rolls in at 9:01. You're like, where's my guy? And he comes running in, and he's got khakis on, maybe some Dockers, and they're a little wrinkled because he just grabbed them, threw them on. And he's wearing a golf knit shirt that says, I don't care what it says, ABC lawyer, right? Whatever you want to call it. And he comes running in a little bit. He's got some papers under his arm, and they're hanging out of a couple manila envelopes. And he comes running in, and his hair, he's taking his hand and he's patting his hair down. Hey, dude, sorry, man. Sorry I'm running a little late. Crazy morning. Just relax. I read the case. You're in good shape, dude. I got this handled. There's no way they're going to prosecute you. Are you nervous? I always ask people that. And if you followed me, fuck yes, you're nervous. Okay? Why are you nervous? Because of first impressions, right? Your first impression is prosecuting team's the best you ever met in your life. My defendant's the worst ever, right? Just a complete loser. First impression. Now, what's the problem with first impressions? What's the challenge? Could the prosecuting attorneys, despite how good they look, be some of the worst buffoons at prosecuting law in the United States or world? Yes. Is it possible? Yes. Is it possible your guy, despite being late, not caring about his appearance, come running in, be one of the greatest defendants in the history of the United States or world? Yes, that's possible. Is the defendant even going to get a chance to represent you because you're probably going to fire him based on first impressions? Okay? So first impressions are that big a deal. They do happen every single second in our lives. And they're often referred to as snap judgment. I say, boom, we make snap judgments all the time. and we're going to spend some time there. You know, we all make snap judgments. The other thing, some people call it, psychologists today are starting to call it thin slicing. You thin slice someone, okay? And I think this is part of the problem in politics today. We make first impressions about people, and we don't learn anything else about them, right? And we're ready to throw what I call the baby out with the bathwater, when maybe the bathwater is just dirty, and we still got a good person at their core. First impressions, I just can't say it enough how big they are. There was a study done in UK. And the UK does some weird studies, no doubt. England's a little different. But this has been replicated over and over. I don't know if you know it or don't know, but did you know that women will decide within the first 30 seconds of meeting a guy whether or not she's willing to sleep with him? Now think about that. Have sex with them, same thing. Within 30 seconds, they're making a decision after meeting a guy whether they would. Doesn't mean they do, but that's how quick they make decisions. Okay? They also have found that within 90 seconds, they decide if they would ever even want to meet this person again on a first date. Think about that, right? So that goes on. There are some other things that happen within seconds of meeting you. Are you trustworthy? Are you a high status type person? They'll decide if you're smart. Are you dominant? Are you a successful person? Are you on your way to promotion? They can decide if you're on your way to promotion within seconds. Are you adventurous? Are you aggressive? Are you religious? Are you extroverted? Are you a competent leader? Are you conscientious? Right? These are things people are deciding within seconds of meeting you. It's unfair, but guys, you got to wake up and smell the coffee. That's reality, isn't it? It is. Okay, so I somewhere along the line, again, I told you I'm a big believer in psychology and was fortunate enough to study to be a priest and spend some time studying psychology and learning some more about myself. But when I first got in sales, I learned and paid attention that, yes, first impressions are important. How important are they? Well, they're huge. So what does that mean for us in sales, life, and everything else? Well, one, in the analogy I gave you about the murder, we learned that, hey, sometimes the first impression isn't always right about somebody. We got to give them a chance and find out if we've got a good person in front of us that's capable of doing whatever it is we're interested in them accomplishing. But the other thing we got to remember is that our gut instinct is a lot of times right, okay? And we've learned before, I've talked about it before, that people buy because they like and trust you, okay? They buy 73 to 78% of the time because they like and trust you. So what does that mean for us? They're deciding these things within seconds of meeting us, whether they like and trust us. And they're doing it on a lot of things. And this is sometimes tough for people to discuss, but this is the reality. You can hate the world you live in. You can hate the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But we've talked about this. You can't control it. Remember when we did the Serenity Prayer? You can't control it, but these are realities, okay? Within seconds, they decide if you're white, African American, Asian, right? And there's preconditioned decisions, unfortunately, that people will make about you based on your race, based on your religion. If you have a cross hanging out of your shirt, and you, if you do, great, that's fine. But you got to own all these different things. For me, I'm overweight. I've always been conscious of it. When I meet somebody within seconds of trying to sell them something, I think about it all the time. Does this person think I'm lazy because I'm overweight? Do they think I won't get the job done? Is it possible they think I'm an oaf? You know, and I'm not an idiot. When I walk away, they probably go like, this fat ass can't help us. And people say, Terry, why are you so critical, hard on yourself? Because it's not about me. It's about, if I want to be successful in sales, that I'm stupid not to think that first impression and those snap judgments aren't being made about me. I make them, we all, if we all really think about it, we make it about other people all the time, right? We meet somebody at the shopping mall, all that gal's and nuts. Well, why did we decide it? Well, maybe she's having a bad day, a bad moment. But we're too quick to make snap judgments. It doesn't matter whether we should or shouldn't, but it happens. It's like getting pissed because it rains on a day you wanted to go swimming. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you don't recognize that it happens, you're doing yourself no favors, okay? If you're an introvert, right? Someone within seconds can say, man, this guy's pretty introverted. You know, there's things that we connect. We connect with people that are like us. So the goal here of a first impression, whether you think about it or not, is you've got to decide how well you're connecting with the person in front of you within seconds yourself. I often tell salespeople, they try to drag a customer with them forever without ever giving it any thought that maybe they don't like you. Right? And they never want to turn something over to a different salesperson and make the right decision so the company wins as opposed to them getting all of nothing, right? They never understand why the customer never called you back. Well, maybe the voicemail you left a bad impression with them, right? Maybe the tone you left. Maybe something didn't jive. Maybe the email you sent them or the text you sent them. Man, my customer won't call me back. My customer won't call me back. They won't respond to my text. They won't respond to my emails. Well, guys, somewhere along the line, people inherently aren't rude. They're not going to tell you, hey, you bugged me. I'm not going to respond to you. So they just go quiet, right? Myself, when I had my 4th of July party, there was a couple there that I didn't necessarily enjoy their company as much as others. I didn't dislike them, but my first impression was, there's nothing we can talk about, right? Like, Jesus, this is boring. I'm like pulling my hair out. So you just politely move on and go on to the next room and find somebody you enjoy visiting with. So again, this day and age, I think we've become so thin-skinned, and it does concern me because you see this manifestation happening in unfortunately in politics in our world, to where we're going nuts with people having a personality. We're trying to change that. It's almost like we're after robots. We want everybody to think the same way, everybody to dress the same way, so that we have the same first impression of everybody. And that stinks, man. I don't know if it's you. That depresses me. I want people to disagree with me. I want to find people that challenge my own thoughts. I want people that don't do the same things I do. Could you imagine how crowded the batting cages would be if everybody loved to hit a baseball? When I take my son there, I need people to hate hitting baseballs, right? And I need people to have first impressions about people that are into sports, because if we all had the same first impressions, it'd be a struggling world. So those are the things that are happening with the first impressions. And then we sometimes forget that it's just the customer, or we think it's all about the customer, and it is. These first impressions matter. But what about our boss? What first impressions are we leaving in an interview, right? So did we present ourselves well? He's making snap judgments. We're trying to hire all the time here at our agency, looking at resumes. How can a guy go look through 100 resumes? Snap judgment, first impressions. Okay, this resume looks sharp. And I can't tell you how many sharp resumes I've had, and then I go check them out on Social Space, or I go look at their LinkedIn, and then you dig in deeper, like, man, no way in hell would I ever hire this person. But then I'll challenge myself, go look at the resume I didn't like at first, and not all employers will do what I'm willing to do because of snap judgments. You got to think those things through much, much further than what we currently do. And you've got to give them thought. You got to decide. And I'm not telling you to be a fake, be a phony, but whatever it is you're trying to be successful at in life, you've got to be a little bit like a chameleon, right? And it's about survival. That's what life's about. And in order to survive, you've got to provide a quality first impression for someone that you want to do that for. Okay. I make the analogy of if I lost everything today and was dead broke, and this is my analogy, being broke is no big deal to me, right? Like, I've been broke before, and I could be broke again. I could lose all my money because I do like to live to the hilt, right? I could spend every dime, and it could all collapse, and I could be broke. No big deal. I don't meet someone who's broke, they went for it, so what? But the difference is being poor, right? So being poor means you kind of, oh, poor me syndrome, right? So if we needed to keep our windows clean and vacuum the floor, that has nothing to do with needing money. It has to do with having pride in ourselves, how we present ourselves. So, and I realize sometimes life can get tough, but the idea is, if you're trying to get up off the mat and succeed in anything you do, you've got to provide a better first impression. And if your first impression is, even for me, God forbid, if I was dirty and homeless and needed to go get a job to find a way not to be homeless, I would go find me a garden hose and wash my face. And then if I knew my first impression might be jaded with somebody because of something I'm struggling with, I call this steer in, don't steer out, right? Self-deprecating humor is sometimes funny, but it's a great way to address something with somebody and then overcome it. Okay? And it doesn't mean you're neurotic about it. It just means you're addressing something that is possibly being conceived about you with someone else. That's how a first impression could work. For me, when I meet somebody and selling something and I'm selling a certain ticket, I told you I'm aware of my weight, being overweight, and it does bug me. That's why I keep bringing it up, and I'm working on it. But when I meet somebody and I think there's a question about it, and if the conversation presents the opportunity, I will look at them, hey, I'm overweight and I'm going to get this off. I'm a stress eater. I hate it. Then all of a sudden they start talking to me about it. I'm like, and one thing I hate about it is there's nobody with more energy than me. I'm up every day at 4:45 a.m. I go, 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 go. I mean, I see skinny people every day that can't keep up with me. What am I doing? I know it possibly exists. They might not bring it up. So I'm finding a way to address it and overcome it so that they have confidence that I'm the right guy to do business with. Okay? It doesn't mean, and I hear this from people all the time, Terry, quit bringing that up. You don't have to worry about it. Bullshit. You do have to worry about your shortcomings, right? It's like telling a guy if he wants to make it to the NBA, he doesn't have to worry about dribbling with his left hand because he's not as good at it. Wrong. You've got to develop the stuff and sometimes overcome these objections that will exist because of the possible first impression someone's going to have about you. Okay? I'm not telling you how to handle it. I'm not telling you, I just want you aware of it. That's my goal of today's podcast, is to consider how and when these first impressions are happening. Guys, they happen every day within seconds, and we all do it, right? News broadcast comes on. A great example would be, how many of you guys today, I bet, and I hear this all the time, remember the lady who sued McDonald's? All you guys remember is the lady who sued McDonald's for $1 million because she got hot coffee spilled on her. We all remember the story. And that's about all everybody knows about it. And most everybody goes, she's a bitch. I can't believe she sued over some hot coffee spilling on her lap. That was probably her fault, right? We have a first impression of that story without ever finding out the truth. And I was guilty of it too. Then I watched a documentary on it, and you should watch it sometime. It's called Hot Coffee, I think, is what it was called. But then it digs in and, like, guys, she wasn't just burnt like we think. Like, she literally had to have skin grafts on the inside of her legs. She was not suing for $1 million. She was just suing to get the surgery that she had to have done in her hospital stay covered, which was more reasonable. And then you dug in and you learned that McDonald's at the time had hundreds and hundreds of people with second and third degree burns from coffee being too hot. They knew about it and they did nothing about it. And that's when someone becomes liable. And I don't want to get into that, but I just wanted you to remember that story. We all have a first impression about that lady, which is unfair, and she's got to overcome that the rest of her life. Yeah, I'm the lady. So I just want you to start thinking in terms of, what are your first impressions? When your son, and I told you could apply this in your everyday life, when your son or daughter goes to play for a soccer team or a baseball team or a basketball team, we meet a coach and we make a first impression on that guy. This guy, isn't going to be a good coach. He's not well organized. These are things that are just critical for us to understand. You don't have to be obsessed about it, but I think without giving it proper credence and thought, we're failing each other is what we're doing. So that was the idea for today's podcast. First impressions, and I want you to give me some good examples on Facebook if you can. I want to see a post. Give me some feedback on the podcast itself. So that's today's podcast. It is about first impressions. I want you to spend some time and space there, guys. And, your first impression, I keep thinking it could be your car. When you pull up to your client, is your car clean? Why does a car have to be clean? Because it's a first impression. All my auto dealers, if you're not walking your lot every day, are cigarette butts all over your lot where guys stand, or from customers? Have you pulled weeds on the lot? What does that say to people? I'm going to trust them with thousands of my dollars, but they can't pull weeds. When's the last time the windows were cleaned? Are they cleaned every day? Are your desk spaces clean? Are the restrooms clean? All of these things affect us with first impressions, right? Whether you're hosting a party, like I told you I did at the beginning, my 4th of July, we spend time cleaning because we want people to have a good first impression of us, about our family, okay? So, again, that's it. I hope I've hammered it home. I hope this is enough to give you some pointers and make your life better and become a big time thinker and start killing it and crushing it out there by making great first impressions with people and being self-critical enough to know, man, I might have gave a bad first impression, whatever that could be, and overcome it and sell something today. Okay? Once again, thanks for listening to our podcast. I got to keep emphasizing this. I've noticed our reviews aren't moving. Please go to iTunes. Give us the 5-star review if you can. We really need it. And even type in a couple comments about what you like about it. I'm getting texts from people. I'm starting to see the activity go up on these podcasts. But guys, I need your help. Be a real friend and follower, and give me those reviews. Give me the shares. I need them. Make sure you're downloading them. Again, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud. Big Time Thinking has a Facebook page. Click on it, like it. We're putting some fun quotes up there. We're going to be launching some gear. You can get some cool coffee mugs with quotes on them, socks. We're going to have some fun stuff coming out. So make sure you're doing that. And just become a big time thinker. I want to thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. I hope you make some freaking money, because that's what this is all about. And I hope you go out this week. I hope you crush it and make some first impressions that are lasting and winning. And go get them, guys. Have a great day.